My name is Ralf Grössel, Duotone kiteboarding designer since 2005, and I'm responsible for the Evo, the dice, the juice, and what else, Marian?
The Vegas.
And the Vegas, actually, yeah. And of course, all the variants from it.
And my name is Marian Hund. I'm actually not a designer yet. I'm Ralf's trainee and he teaches me how to design kites. And I have no responsibility yet, but I'm pretty sure I'll get some responsibility in the future. And at the moment we're testing kites here at Makani Beach, and it's pretty cool because we have ideal conditions and we just enjoy being here. Thanks for having us.
So Ralf, as a person responsible for the Evo, Dice, Neo and Juice, can you explain to us the differences between each and every kite and what is best for use?
Well, actually, in Duotone we have a really wide range, huge range of different kite models, and each kite model has a specific niche. For example, the Evo is, I would say, the easiest to explain because this is the all-rounder kite. I think you guys are also using it for the school, but it's the ideal kite if you are like from the school into being an intermediate kiter. And then the Evo SLS, for example, is something which is more driven for people which are actually more into the performance side of an all-rounder. The Neo is especially designed for waves. The Vegas is our absolutely high-end competition kite, and the Dice is also kind of an all-rounder, but more for high jumps and for dynamic maneuvers like making kite loops. And the Juice, quite easy, is for absolutely light wind, and the Mono is light wind foiling. So this is, I would say, like the rough things which you actually have to take into consideration.
So you mentioned now we have the SLS series. So is it only the Evo that's coming in SLS, or there will be other SLS kites as well?
Well, all the main models will feature SLS in the future because it's something really unique we have been developing with the Penta TX material, which is one of the most important components of that kite, and it makes the kite more performance driven in general. It's like a normal car and a sportive version of it. And that's also the reason why the sportive kites anyhow, like the Evo, the Neo, will definitely feature the SLS, the Dice as well, for example. And also the Rebel will be available in SLS soon. And Marian, you want to talk a bit more about the details, I would say?
The SLS material helps you in general to have a stiffer kite. And a stiffer kite just means the kite is more reactive, it's more direct. Doesn't mean that it's a better kite, it's a different kite. So imagine your grandparents, they're probably not happy sitting in a race car, they probably want to have the comfortable car. So it's the same with the SLS kites and the normal kites. There's no better and not so good kite, it's just it's a different version of it. And we're pretty happy that we can experience all these new technologies and try different things and set the benchmark where the whole kite industry will go in the next year.
We saw the new kites, the D-Lab, on our beach earlier, and if you can explain to us what it is all about.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the reason why we are here is actually to have these Juice D-Labs kites approved. It's a project we have been working on it since over 2 years now. It was not easy, but I think in the end we have pretty much achieved exactly what we have been looking for. It is the lightest tube kite available on the market today. And I would also say I'm very convinced to say that it's the most performant kite in terms of light wind flying characteristics. And to tell you something about it, D-Lab is the Duotone Laboratory. That's just a shortcut for it, which stands for materials or techniques which are absolutely the highest of what is actually possible within the market of kiteboarding. And we are featuring the Allure material. It's the lightest at the moment for the inflatable parts. It's 80 gram. And in combination with the light wind modular system, with all the construction details we are aiming for the kites, like all the thin bridles, the thin loops and everything which makes the kite super, super light and responsive, it's just a combination which opens like a new field of kite surfing. Because this is, if you're able to go in 7-8 knots of wind, like properly go even on a foil in 4 knots of wind. I mean, we had fantastic conditions because we literally had no wind the other days, today as well, it's nothing. And it just showcased that on certain areas of the world there are no wind days anymore. If you have a sea breeze with 6-7 knots of wind, you will be able to kite. But not only to kite, just really kite. You will have a really kite experience and the sensation that you're not missing any wind, which was always the case. So to make it short, I think it's quite a big step in kite surfing. For sure it's the biggest step in my career in the last 20 years. I'm into that kite business. And yeah, I mean, you have seen it. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We have tried it. So nice.
So we want your guys' advice about the pros and cons between the different bars, the click bar and the trust bar. So if you have any recommendation and certain use, we would like to know.
Absolutely.
Like for us, it's pretty clear. We're developing all the kites on the click bar. I wouldn't say there are pros and cons for the bars. Like the click bar is for sure the more expensive one. It's our top model, and my personal experience is just that you are used to the click, you will never go back to the trust bar because it's just so easy. You have like the click or you power on the kite, then you have the click for depowering. No need to get somewhere up there and try to depower the kite. Somehow it's just easier for everybody, and once you're used to it, as I said, you will probably never go back. And we develop all the kites on the click bar. That's just how it is. So we recommend to use the click bar in case you can.
So with every kite model, we can see that you develop them year by year. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to ask, like, how much time do you put into developing each kite for a newer model?
That highly depends on what kind of change you have in mind. For example, for the Evo SLS, that was one of the most intense, difficult development phases I've ever had so far. Like the amount of prototypes was actually quite crazy. For example, 10 different revisions on one size. So that's ending up in a huge workload, definitely for everybody involved. I mean, you have the production, which has to do tons of prototypes. Then, of course, we always have to find the right conditions. So it goes a lot of effort into develop something really new, especially also with the D-Lab, as I mentioned. I mean, these ideas are over 3 years old now, and then it took nearly 2 years to get the right production details finalized from the production side to actually being able to manufacture the new material in the way we have been looking for. So it's not always like the kite design itself. I would say these days it's more like the entire package of everything which makes the kite, especially from the production point of view as well. Idea is not worth anything if you're not able to make it happen, and to make something happen, that always starts in the production. This is something. So generally I cannot say a number. If I'm just upgrading a model, it could be 2 to 3 prototypes per size, or even less, that depends. But on something really new, you go from the scratch, and then you really have to work yourself through it. Yeah.
So if I may ask, what are the most important key features when developing a kite?
Well, I mean, this is a question, what is the most important? Well, the target, first of all. I mean, if you want to develop something new, you always have to know what is the current model doing well, what is basically the problem to improve. Improving means that you have to collect feedback from the market to actually see what you actually have to improve. Of course, if you have new technologies, then you're trying to implement this. But key features is absolutely depending on the model. For example, the Evo water launch is important, and easy sheet and go is important. The all-round abilities are important, and for the new, the drift ability for wave is important. So it really depends on what kind of model you're looking at. And if you have a Vegas, for example, well, it has to create slack. It's quite simple. So it's depending on the model.
So I'm not sure if we're gonna agree here, but I want to know, what's your favorite personal kite for each of you?
Well, that's actually a very good question. And for me personally, I pretty much enjoy like using different models, because like it's not about a single kite. This means if there's like a lot of wind and I can boost high, I, for example, prefer to have the Evo SLS in 8 meter. That's really cool. I really enjoy that kite. But if it's light wind condition, like now, I really enjoy the 13 meter Juice. Yeah, it just depends. And for me, it's the mix of everything, because that's what kiteboarding is all about, right? You can jump high, you can race on the foil, you can go in light wind, you can go in big waves. That's like such a big variety. So I really enjoy the whole picture of kiteboarding, and therefore I cannot say this is the kite for me. But yeah, I have quite a few models I like best at the moment. But as I said, it's the mix.
Yeah, I totally agree on that.
And we wanted to ask, what do you think about the spot at Makani and about the conditions here in Egypt?
First of all, the spot is amazing. I mean, Makani Beach, I've never been here before. I'm really pretty stoked. I mean, Marian as well, for sure. Elguna has developed quite a lot in the last 3 years. First time I went to Egypt was in 2001. Completely different world. It was in Hurghada, but here is it's fantastic. It's really cool. The conditions are like Egypt. It's like you have like basically two things. You have the right wind and you have the wrong wind. And the wrong wind means if everything is from easterly directions or southerly directions, you have these really light wind days, which was perfect for us. I mean, for us, we saw the forecast and said like, okay, this is the conditions we need to test the ultra light wind kites. And it totally worked out for us. But of course, it's an extreme. Generally, with the setup here, I think it's a really good spot. Absolutely to learn. I can just recommend on it.
Especially the temperatures. If you imagine that we have around 0 degrees in Europe at the moment, it's just a pure pleasure being here and sweating.
Well, I'm just gonna wrap this up and say thank you so much for coming here, and hopefully we would see you again.
Thank you very much for having us.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.